Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ed. Great to
Nice to
see
see you again.
you. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Again, so look, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today, and much appreciated.
Thank you for having me. This is great fun.
So those of you that aren't aware, this is Ben Unson. He's an Australian jazz guitarist. He's been in the States for over 10 years, touring and working hard. He's released an album. You should check it out on Spotify. It's great. And here we are for an interview.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ed. This is great. I actually,
I'm gonna. No, no, tell me.
I haven't actually been on the Instagram live stream in like a few years now, so it's nice that you have done this because I should come on here more often. Let's talk.
First question for you,
Yeah.
which is, how old were you when you started playing guitar, and who are the guitarists that influenced you the most?
That's a great question. I was 10 when I first picked up a guitar. I just turned 10. And I think I'd heard George Benson before that. That was the first person I'd ever heard, you know, sort of... You know, we've all heard that, as we should have, you know. That was probably the first thing I ever heard, or can recall hearing anyway, before I picked up the guitar. And certainly growing up in Australia in the 90s, I remember seeing Tommy Emmanuel on TV a lot, you know. Which was certainly in the 90s, you'd see him all the time, and it was fantastic. And when I was 10, I picked up guitar. I sort of had the sound of George Benson in my head, and I also liked Andy Summers from the Police, and also Jeff Beck. So those were the first people I was aware of. And then later on, I heard Pat Metheny and John Scofield and Wes Montgomery and a lot of jazz guitar players from numerous times in history, and that really had an effect on me. But I also listened to Steve Lukather and Robin Ford and Larry Carlton and those kind of guys. And yeah, you know, and I loved that as well, and it had a big impact on my playing. And yeah, lots of people. But I was 10, and that's when it happened.
George Benson. I've had the privilege of seeing him in Australia at the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah.
That was an amazing gig, and he actually led us backstage to visit him. So I was stoked. I was like, didn't know what to say.
I
Yeah.
saw him at the I think it was the Palais Theatre in Melbourne in about 2010, and I got to meet him backstage, and it was he was so nice, and I mean that was one of the concerts I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. Highlight for me as well.
Yeah, amazing stuff. So that was, I mean, at Sydney Opera House, that must have been fantastic. I mean, yeah,
it was. What about Alan Holdsworth? I actually only found out about Alan Holdsworth in the last few years. So, what did he have any effect on your playing or your interest?
It's a good question. A lot of people have asked me that, and I love Alan Holdsworth's playing, but I didn't hear him until a lot later. Because I think a lot of the sort of language in my playing that might resemble something he might play, maybe for me it came from listening to a lot of saxophone players. And I didn't discover Holdsworth until a lot later, when I'd actually come over here to the US, and someone said to me, "Hey, have you heard Alan Holdsworth?" And I should have... it was simply a case of he wasn't on my radar for no reason, really. I should have known who he was. But I love his playing, but funnily enough, not someone that I was much of a sort of formative influence. I listened to him much later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great to hear a bit of the history there of your starting your guitar, and there's great influences, and Luke, he's amazing. I've seen Toto twice, and it's different every time. It was cool. I got to see Steve Porcaro because he toured with them the last tour, and because he's not with them like anymore. Like it's like that's the classic. Like you gotta have him in the band for it to be the classic, and just the way he dances on the keys. Anyway, I was just boy.
Where did you? Did Toto come to Australia, or did you?
Yeah, yeah. It was that 2019 maybe.
Oh right. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Their last album they toured on. They came out here with Steve, yeah, and I didn't recognize many of the other players, but yeah, it was
It
amazing.
must have been amazing. I would have loved to.
And the first time they came here, like in the early 2000s, they were with Greg Fillinganes was on the keys,
Oh
and
really?
Leyland Scar on the bass as well. So just
I've seen videos of that lineup. I mean, what a band! That's ridiculous.
I was so grateful to see Phil.
Yeah, oh, amazing. A legend. All of them are legend.
All of them. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's go to the next question. I've seen an interview of you talking about your practice regime, and it's intense, man. Wow. I'm impressed. I really am. Like, wow. So, what are your thoughts on practice, and what is your practice regime, and how has it changed through the years?
That's a good question. Well, it's changed a lot now because I don't have as much time to practice. You know, my teachers used to say to me when I was younger, practice as much as you can because you won't have time later. And it turned out to be true. So when I was younger, I mean, I started practicing really heavily when I was in high school, my last year of high school. So I was 17. And I would practice 6 to 8 hours a day, which was a lot, you know. And I would sort of structure it in 2-hour blocks. And on a really good day, I could practice 10 hours, but I also had a guitar teaching job. So, you know, I had to do it around my work and also going to university at the time. So it was a pretty crazy pace to keep up with for myself. But I suppose I was very driven to get better at playing because I was listening to a lot of great players. I was, you know, I was living in Melbourne, Australia, where I'm from, as you know, and you know, I was playing with some great saxophone players as well, and these guys had a fluidity on their instrument that I wanted to be able to keep up with. You know? So I thought, if I'm playing with these saxophone players, then I need to be able to do the, you know, all the sort of fluid stuff, you know. And I can play chords as well, so how about that? So I was inspired to practice by the people around me, and also, you know, just for the love of the instrument. So I kept up that pace for about 6 years, and in that time I also moved to Boston, where I got a scholarship to go to school, and which was great. That was a wonderful experience, and yeah. So these days I practice 3 or 4 hours a day because there's a lot of other things to attend to.
That's still a lot, but that's amazing. That's awesome. Like you got to keep up your chops.
Yeah, you know, look, I think sometimes people ask me how much should I practice, and it does differ from person to person. It depends on what you want to do. I think it's also really important to play with other people. I think that, you know, you got to have experience playing with people, because ultimately that'll solidify everything that you have worked on with your practice. So that's. But when I was practicing 6 to 8 hours a day, you know, I was working on all sorts of arpeggios and scales and connecting it all over the guitar neck and chord voicings, and then you'd play a gig and you try and connect it all together on the gig. And I think in some senses that's where it really counts. So.
And look now, you're playing with your eyes closed. Like.
Oh yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is I play with my eyes closed just to. It looks kind of strange, I will admit, but you know, it's kind of a concentration thing. You know, it's just like I can get in this. If I have my eyes open, I'm looking at the neck, then I sort of, it's almost like I psych myself out and I start tripping up. So I have my eyes closed, and I suppose I've played long enough to know where my hand's going, so I don't have to look at it that much. And I just let the notes, sort of I suppose the music come through me in a way, you know, and just have my eyes closed and let it happen. So that'd be what I think.
It's like a direct connection from you to the guitar, so you don't even have to look.
Yeah.
That's just what it's reached. It's reached that. Like, it's amazing to me, and it just shows what the practice can do.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just working out where everything is and trying to make it as seamless as possible. And I think that's really good. It's just trying to so you don't have to think about it. You know, practicing as much as you can so you don't have to think about it that much, and you can just pick up the guitar and it goes, you know.
Yeah.
So it all flows through.
Oh, thanks for that. Thanks for that insight.
Yeah,
cool.
I hope so, yeah.
All right, so we've got the one more question. Is have you got any more music coming out? Now, your album was released a few years ago. What's up next for you?
Thank you for asking, Ed. Yeah, so that album Ace was a trio album, and it sort of started as a collaborative album, and then it became my album, and that happens sometimes. And I was going to tour it or do some shows for that album in 2020, but I think everyone's plans changed a bit in 2020, so that didn't happen. But that's all right. Lots of people have heard that album Ace on online since then, and it's developed a bit of a cult following, so that's fantastic. But I have a lot of new music written, and I'm hoping to get it recorded sometime this year, and I'm really itching to do it. But yeah, I have a new record that I'm hoping we'll record later this year, maybe in you know, June or July or something. We'll certainly see, but it'll be another trio kind of thing, but a bit of a different approach, you know.
Yeah,
I've also got a few new guitars now since then, which like this one, which I really love.
What is that one? I'm curious.
This is a guitar made by a company called the Frank Brothers, which is a company in Canada, and it's a really cool guitar. It's got it's a, you know, a bit like a Les Paul, but very much its own thing. And I love it because it's got a neck, middle, and bridge thing, but with humbuckers. So I can get some really cool humbucker, big sound out of it, but also some Strat kind of sounds too, you know. It doesn't sound exactly like a Strat, but it kind of has its own thing. Like it's got that... Where is it? Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit like a Strat, that sort of neck and middle type thing.
Yeah.
You know, which I really love, but it's got its own thing to it as well, and it's got a chambered body and made out of some beautiful wood and all that sort of stuff. So, really beautiful instrument, and
Yeah. Nice.
so yeah,
Because I always wondered, what is that guitar? I've never seen it before. And
yeah.
I love double cutaways. Like, it's just, I was like, oh, what is that?
You know, so you mentioned the double cutaway, right? Because it's sort of it does give you good access to right up to the 22nd fret, and I really like to get up. I like to try and use the whole range of the instrument as much as I can anyway, and I can get all the way up to the 22nd fret without any trouble, and that's fantastic. And it's also not that heavy, you know. Like my complaint with a Les Paul is that it's a bit heavy.
That's right. That's true.
Beautiful, beautiful guitar, but really heavy. I used to play one a lot, but if I'd sit there for an hour playing, I'd just have back pain, you know.
Yeah, wow.
I don't have this problem with this guitar as well, so that's cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's the end of the interview. So that's all I got for you. Just keep it nice, short and sweet. Going to be exciting to hear your new stuff coming out.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you reckon you can play us a little bit?
Oh,
or something?
sure. I can play you a bit.
Guitar there?
Sure. Something in There you go.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you take notice of this awesome guitarist. Thanks again for being here with us today, and yeah, catch you later. I'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. And thanks again for having me. I'll see you soon.
Okay then.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.